How are you, loves? It's time for another cuppa. And this week I really just want to kind of talk a little bit more and update you a little bit on the video that I made a few weeks back on productivity and the struggles that I have with just being consistently productive and sticking to a schedule and burnout and, just having swings of energy followed by just periods of complete energy drought. And I would love to say that I've come up with some big solution to this. I haven't. It's only been a few weeks, obviously, since my last slump. So these things take time, and it's possibly one of these things that I'm never really going to come up with some wonderful solution and some wonderful answer to. But I am feeling a bit better than I was a few weeks ago, and I have been kind of giving myself some hard truths and also trying to be kind of kind to myself at the same time. And I just wanted to kind of share some of the solutions that I've been coming up with you on the channel. So first and foremost, I do feel like the most important thing for me a lot of the time is to have a consistent sleep schedule. And unfortunately, that's something that I haven't really been able to do here in Edinburgh, because whenever I try to do that, I find that I hit a wall of just complete and utter sleep deprivation because I struggle to sleep in an apartment. This is something that I've possibly mentioned before in the channel, I'm not sure, but it is something that up until fairly recently I didn't really want to talk about too much, because the way with sleep, the more you talk about it, the harder it is. And I just definitely didn't want to be drawing attention to it and didn't want to be overthinking it and kind of making myself feel like I'm a bad sleeper, because that's like the worst thing you can possibly do if you're a bad sleeper, is perpetuate that idea in your head. But I definitely have struggled on and off with sleeping in apartments. I struggle if there's any kind of surrounding noise, if there are people moving around in apartments, especially overhead or just nearby, slamming doors and walking around and things like that. That kind of noise can really disrupt my sleep. It can really keep me awake at night. And I have endeavoured to just get used to it and to just move past it and to convince myself that it's fine. But unfortunately, there are always going to be times when it's not okay, and unfortunately that means that I won't be able to stick to the sleep schedule that I want to, because it's just not up to me some of the time. Like if somebody's being particularly noisy for a few weeks, which sometimes happens, up until like 1 or 2 a.m, if I try and sleep for only like 6 hours or less a night, like after a week or two, I really hit a wall. And it's just not sustainable. So unfortunately for me, my number one answer to all of my woes in life, like my mental health problems and my energy problems and all of that, and productivity and all of that, the consistency that I really need in terms of my sleep schedule has not always been possible. And for any of you that are the same, I really feel for you. For anyone who has small children, that's probably the same. Or just in general, there are probably lots of different life situations, like depending on your work schedule. Like maybe you have a work life that like where your times shift a lot around, like if you have got shift work or whatever, like where you have to actually be kind of going to bed and getting up at different times or whatever. So I really feel for you. Like it's something that is not always as simple as just saying to yourself, right, well, I'm going to start going to bed at 10 p.m. every night, end of. Like you can't always make that decision. So what I've been kind of doing is trying to encourage myself to get up earlier again in the morning and work my way back to where I was before with getting up early, but at the same time while not putting a lot of pressure on myself to get up at that time. And yeah, like I kind of got into a bad habit of that. I got into a bad habit of getting up very late, especially because for a while I needed a lot more extra sleep. But that for me, like once I start hitting a point where I'm naturally waking up kind of before 8 o'clock again, then I kind of know I'm on the right track, and I definitely do start to feel a bit better. So that's been kind of the number one thing is like that I've been doing, is like trying to encourage myself to get up earlier. Like I do have this sunrise alarm clock. Now obviously here in Edinburgh in the summer, it's like broad daylight by like 5 a.m. probably, or earlier, maybe even 4 a.m. Yeah, probably by 4 a.m. in July. So it doesn't make a huge amount of difference of light in the room, but it's enough to kind of notice it, and it's enough to like maybe wake me up. So I kind of set that alarm. So at least if I wake up, I can tell if the light is on or not. I can kind of have a rough idea of what time it is in the morning, and it kind of is like a trigger to like, hey, you know, maybe it's about time to wake up now. And that's the amount that I do. Like that's all that I do in terms of setting an alarm. Unless of course I actually have somewhere that I have to be kind of earlier on in the morning. Obviously then I'll set an alarm. But apart from that, that's all I do. To kind of gently encourage myself rather than being really strict and really hard on myself. When ultimately I know that getting 8 hours of sleep a night for me is the number one priority, and unfortunately if that doesn't happen, you know, from 11 to 7, there's nothing much I can do about that. The next thing that I've been trying to do is to get myself back into a schedule and to actually work consistently again, but on a kind of smaller scale. So whenever I get into a routine and a schedule again, like whenever I start like actually scheduling my time and using a planner and all of that, I tend to jump into scheduling kind of at least an 8-hour day for myself. I tend to like to give myself a fair bit of free time in the mid-afternoon because I don't work very well at that time. So I might like schedule in like some exercise or just some downtime for like 2 or more hours in the middle of the afternoon. And so then like my scheduled day tends to be fairly long. Like it can run to like 9 hours maybe from like when my starting time to kind of my ending time of work, or maybe even longer depending on how ambitious I'm being. And that tends to be my go-to, and I feel really good about that initially when I'm like giving myself that kind of structure, that kind of schedule. But that's exactly the kind of schedule where I just fall off the wagon like pretty quickly, and once I start falling off the wagon, like the whole thing goes. So instead of trying to convince myself to do like enough blocks in the day where I'm doing like say 6 hours or more of dedicated work, like focused dedicated work, instead of that I've actually just been saying to myself, okay, 3 hours a day. You have to do 3 hours a day, an hour and a half and another hour and a half break, like kind of clumps, preferably as early in the day as possible. But like I don't like get out of bed and immediately start work. Like I do have kind of a morning routine, and I let myself ease into it so that like by kind of early to mid-afternoon that I'm done with that kind of block of time of work, because I give myself a little break in the middle between the 2 1.5 hour blocks. And I've been trying to be strict with myself about that. And like no matter how terrible I'm feeling, no matter how tired I am, like no matter what's going on, no matter how late I get up in the morning, that I have to stick to doing that like 5 days a week. And you know, usually I'll do more, like usually I'll do something else in the afternoon. It might not be real work, something that I consider to be real work. Like it might not be more PhD work, it might not be more kind of focused hard work, but realistically it is going to be something productive, because I am going to feel like doing something that is going to be like, maybe I'll just feel like reading. But in my kind of line of work, like reading is important and having new ideas and thinking and journaling and going for walks and getting my mind working is actually all really part of the process. So even if I only do 3 hours of solid hard work every day, I'm actually doing pretty well. And I've been really trying to convince myself of that, because that seems to me to be hopefully a really manageable amount of work that I can consistently achieve over time. And that, you know, when I'm really going through those slumps, that if I can convince myself to sit in front of the computer and actually try to get the thing done for 3 hours a day, and maybe if that's all I get done, like literally if I just spend the rest of the day sitting on the couch watching Netflix, I know that I'm going to reach those points when I've got higher energy and I probably get a lot more done. I get like double or triple that amount done in a day, and then that'll kind of make up for like the slumps. So yeah, but I've been really trying not to beat myself up when I don't manage to get the full 3 hours of like, you know, if the work doesn't feel like good enough work, if I feel like I just wasted the time that I spent sitting in front of the computer, I just try and be kind of gentle on myself and say, okay, you know, that's okay. I do try to remind myself that your average person, like working an office job, and I remember this from when I had an office job myself, like, you know, fairly often you will go home in a day and of spending, you know, your whatever 7 hours that I would have spent, you know, including like not including the lunch break, like my 8 hours in the office, like I wouldn't go away feeling like I'd gotten really anything done sometimes. Like sometimes you're just not in the headspace, and that's okay. And there's no point in beating yourself up and trying to like add loads of extra hours onto that, because you're just going to burn yourself out, basically. Another thing that I've been doing is trying to apply the same kind of concept to my exercise routine. So this is a tough one because I know that I feel better when I'm exercising. I know that running is really, really good for my mental health and for my physical health, for my energy levels and all of that. Like, I love running, I love doing yoga, and I do try to do some kind of like body weight kind of exercises as well, like a body weight training, like some kind of resistance workout kind of weight training. Because strength training is important too, and I'm really bad at actually doing it. But I definitely find that I tend to burn myself out. I tend to enter into a phase of like being determined to up my mileage, to up my kind of my fitness, like my kind of heart rate compared to like how fast I'm running and all that kind of thing. And I will find some sort of routine that is working really well for me. So for example, like in April, when I really managed to burn myself out really badly without realizing it, I was working those kind of long ass days where sure, I was taking the afternoon mostly off, but I would be like reading and doing other stuff in those hours, and then I'd be working until like 8 or 9 p.m. every night. And you know, just still feeling really good for about a month. I was also running 4 days a week. But I was telling myself, and I was doing any, I don't think I was doing any strength training at that point, but I was doing yoga every day as well. Not a lot of yoga, but some yoga every day. And was that it in terms of exercise? You know, I walk in and out of college as well, which is a workout in itself because I live in a valley and college is like up a hill. So that's a workout in and of itself as well. The walk in anyway, like the walk home is like nice and gentle, but the walk in is like, yeah. And I told myself that was fine, and for a lot of people, like maybe that would be like a perfectly normal amount of exercise. I'd be running 5 kilometers at a time because I was doing heart rate training, and I was like making sure to keep my heart rate under a certain level, under what felt like a very moderate level compared to what I had been pushing myself to do before. So I would be coming home from a run, from a 5k, you know, like a relatively short run, feeling like I could run more, you know, and that was kind of what I was aiming for, and that made me feel like, yeah, I can consistently do this, I can run 4 days a week and I'm not going to burn myself out. Unfortunately, sadly, I did burn myself out. So what I learned from that was just to not get so caught up in constantly trying to improve myself in terms of my physical fitness. Like, there will be times in your life when that's your focus, but ultimately for me, I'm kind of juggling so many different things in my life right now that I don't think I can afford to be trying to push myself, push my physical fitness like a whole lot right now. I think trying to keep myself on a level, and also I do want to be kind of gradually working on my aerobic fitness, because I think part of my problem has been that I'm not actually very aerobically fit, that I have been training myself anaerobically for a very long time, for many, many years, and that my aerobic fitness is actually piss poor. So I do kind of want to like very gradually work on that foundation and build that up. But it's the kind of fitness training that takes a really long time, and it's best done over a long period of time and gently. So I've been trying to convince myself to step that back a bit as well. So what I found in the past was that I would be really, really consistent with running like 4 times a week, and you know, like I ran, how many kilometers did I run in April? I don't know, but it was a lot. Like, it was a ton. Maybe 80 kilometers total? No, would it have been more than that? More than that, I'd say. It wasn't quite 100 kilometers, but it was like getting on to 100 kilometers in April. And what I was finding in the past was I would have a month like that where I would run that kind of distance in the month, and then the next month I would run like 3 times in the whole month or something. And I just really wanted to stop that. I really just wanted to stop having that kind of roller coaster up and down. So what I've been doing at the moment is running twice a week, an even lower heart rate cap. So like basically I'm walk running, like I'm not even running consistently on these runs. They feel ludicrously easy. They're very, very frustrating because I just constantly want to just keep running, and my watch is kind of going, nope, your heart rate's too high, and I'm like, oh, right, okay, fine. Feels really frustrating, and I'm sure there are many people that are telling me that I'm doing it wrong and I'd be like progressing faster if I was running faster. But ultimately I've learned that no, like this is what I need to do, at least for now, and that I really need to work on this kind of foundation and take it easy, and like 2 times a week is just about enough to kind of maintain my level of fitness. And gradually over time, I will add to that, but I just want to keep doing this for now until I get to the point where I don't burn myself out. Like once I've gone 6 months and I haven't had to take, you know, I'll take like a week off once every now and then just to give myself a rest maybe. But once I've gone 6 months and basically not had to take any time off, then I'll be like, okay, great, now I can really start stepping it up. And I've also been doing at least one strength training a week alongside my yoga. And then alongside, like I've been doing walks and stuff as well. So I will do at least one kind of long walk alongside that as well. So I've really only been doing all of this for, I don't know how many weeks, like maybe 3 weeks. But I am feeling like I'm coming back to myself. I have been feeling happier. I have been feeling more energetic. I have been getting more things done in my personal life. Like I've actually felt like doing things like sitting down to do art, or sitting down to read a non-fiction book, or, you know, just doing other things in the evenings other than just like playing video games or watching Netflix, which is really good. That's kind of always my barometer for how well I'm doing, like in my personal life, is just how much I feel like doing my spiritual practice, reading tarot, doing art, reading non-fiction. Like if I'm feeling motivated to do those kinds of things in the evenings rather than just flake out in front of a television, then I know that's something I'm doing something right. And that is what I've learned. Like I'm really starting to learn that like I can't just go full throttle every single time that I'm feeling okay or that I'm feeling good. That I can't just like fling myself into life and tell myself like, oh, now I'm finally fixed, I'm finally better, and I can finally like be the crazy fitness machine that I always wanted to be, and be the crazy productivity machine that I always wanted to be. I think ultimately these things, when you do have a tendency to kind of up and down and crash and burn and that kind of thing, I think it does have to be gradual. And I'm really hoping that in like a couple of years' time that I will be the kind of person who feels consistently productive and who can get a lot done without burning out, and who is hopefully running 3, maybe 4 times a week and working out like twice a week. You know, that's kind of my ultimate goal. But I'm trying to make myself realize that you can't like do everything all at once. Like you can't just go from 0 to 100. Like it just doesn't work that way. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I haven't been doing a lot of spiritual practice, but I have been digging out tarot a little bit, and I have still been doing a fair bit of meditation, and I've also been doing non-fiction reading that is relating to my spirituality, as I kind of talked about in, what was it, 2 videos ago? I talked about kind of science and pantheism. So I feel like, even though I'm not necessarily doing more overt practice in terms of my spirituality, I feel more spiritual. I feel more connected to my spirituality again than I have in quite a few months, I would say. So yeah, so things have definitely been looking up. And I haven't really toyed with, I haven't really tried much my idea that I had about having kind of a monthly to-do list much. Because I've actually just been avoiding my diary completely again. Like I haven't been using it. I haven't really been thinking about how to make that work. For now at least, like I just have it in my head of what needs to get done every week. But I would definitely consider going that way in the future. I really want to mention as well that I was really pleasantly surprised by the response to that video. Not that it got like loads of views or anything, but that the responses in terms of comments on the video and comments on Instagram were really, really positive and really, really encouraging. And I found a whole heap of you who were saying I'm the exact same, I have the same issues, and some of you were offering some advice and some ideas of things that you try to do, and other people were just saying, you know, thanks, and I'm going to try doing similar things to what you're going to try. And it just made me feel a lot less alone. So I'm really hoping, if nothing else, that these videos, these chatty kind of life update videos, might also help you feel less alone if you're going through similar things to what I'm going through. I think productivity struggles and lifestyle struggles are possibly always going to be something that I'm going to be working on. And I would really like us to kind of be able to brainstorm together and think about these together and hopefully help each other out, and hopefully get to a point gradually over time of being a little bit more stable and feeling a little bit more in control. Because I think at the end of the day, I'm going to have to accept that the ups and downs are going to happen and the energy levels are going to go up and down, but I think it's more about kind of feeling in control even when that happens, and being able to maintain a certain level of productivity and a certain level of just like control over my life, even in the dips. And I think being able to do that, being able to kind of, like I say, if I only have like, if it's only 3 hours of work, if it's only 2 runs a week, or if I can even just substitute those runs just for fast walks, if I can just feel like I've accomplished that, at least, if that's my minimum, if that's my checklist, if I can check those things off the list and not feel like I've only like checked a tiny amount of what I was supposed to do, I feel like it's actually going to help me get back on track quicker. So I will let you know going forward if this helps. It might be a while before I have another slump, who knows. I'm definitely going to be struggling a bit while I'm moving back to Ireland in 2 months' time, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, in the meantime, like I say, leave comments below, let me know how this is going with you too, and yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will be chatting to you again soon. Bye guys.